Hey, hear about that trip to Zimbabwe? Looks great on a resume.
Let me guess, you want to get a selfie with the lion? Yeah, that's a little beyond my budget.
Good morning, everyone. On Monday, we watched the movie The Tipping Point, and today we'll begin our class with a Think, Pair, Share question. Now, let's get into groups of 3 or 4. So, we are going to look at 2 questions this morning. Question 1, is it justifiable for the oil sands to continue? And number 2, what should the people who are living there do?
I really resent Canada for what they're doing to the environment.
There's no other species that destroys this planet like us humans. We're like a virus.
I know, I think it's really sad.
I can't speak on behalf of Winona, but I really don't consider myself as a part of the we.
Not bad, but you guys need to get to a deeper level of analysis, okay?
Seriously?
I think it's totally justifiable. Think of all the Canadian jobs that oil sands support. What do you think?
It's a non-issue. Fact of the matter is, billions of people need oil.
Yeah, I agree.
1,200 people being affected, just move them.
Yeah, let's just move in. Again?
Okay, let's take this up as a group. And what were you guys saying here?
This is just another example of capitalism wreaking its havoc on the planet. All of the world's problems, social, political, environmental, they all stem from capitalism. So of course it isn't justified. Capitalism isn't justifiable.
Look, it's not as simple as that. It would be economically devastating. The lives of 450,000 Canadians rely on the oil sands. What do you think will happen if we just shut it down?
What about the value of non-human life? Who cares about the economy if we don't have a clean environment?
Yeah, and what about the animals? At least humans have a voice to protest with.
Some people have a voice.
It's like what Omar was saying. We really are a toxin on the planet.
Yeah, it makes me ashamed to be Canadian.
Okay, I'm not Canadian, and my ancestors were not Canadian. My kids will not be Canadian because we are Ganikahaga, and we have lived here since the creation of time.
Look, I didn't grow up with my First Nations identity, but the lesson I've learned is that you're supposed to think of the 7 generations ahead of yourself.
It's not like your people are doing anything with the land in the first place, though. I mean, the Canadian government's brought in billions of revenue from the oil sands.
But they are doing something with the land. They live on the land in harmony with it, in a way that doesn't destroy it. That's what they're doing with the land.
Yeah, and besides, it doesn't even make sense economically. The U.S. has rejected the Keystone Pipeline, and it's not a renewable resource.
Look, capitalism isn't all that bad. Tax dollars from the oil sands help fund a lot of social programs. Not just in Canada, the Bill Gates Foundation, the fight against malaria and polio, it's all from capitalism.
We gotta reduce our dependency on the Middle East. It's a nightmare over there.
Capitalism is great. Look at Elon Musk. He's a total capitalist.
Never heard of them.
He's actually the CEO of Tesla and one of the guys who started PayPal, and a leader in the field of electric cars and batteries.
Wow, some up-and-coming 1%ers.
I honestly don't care about the money or the oil. I only care about the people. If people are in risk, we gotta do something about it. Not shutting down the thing that is making Canada rich, of course, but protecting people. How can we change people's minds so that human rights are above everything? I mean, in Venezuela, after the Hugo Chavez thing, they start saying, let them, feed them oil.
Feed who oil?
Okay, now we heard a lot about what do you think about whether it's justifiable. Let's move on to the second question. So what should the people who are living there do?
Just move.
Yeah, go to Fort Mac, get a job.
Maybe the government can help them. In my country, we have a lot of refugees because of rebel groups.
Like cartels?
I know, not like that. Not everything is about drugs in there, okay? So we have a lot of rebel groups, and they start killing everyone for no reason. So people had to leave their land, and the government gave them homes. Maybe that can be an option.
Move them where? We're the occupiers. What do you think?
Okay, so now we have to speak on behalf of all Indigenous people in Canada. First of all, she's Ojibwe and I'm Mohawk, and the tar sands are thousands of kilometers away. We're separated by hundreds of Indigenous communities. Do you speak on behalf of all white people in Canada?
It will be economically cheaper to move them, But we're destroying their identity, their culture.
Yeah, but identities are being destroyed all the time. It's called evolution. Strong survive, the weak perish. Why would we want to preserve a dying culture?
We have to stop the tar sands. It's disgusting, and I feel like we're raping the earth, and yet we depend on the earth. There's going to be more climate change and water wars. It's going to become irreversible, so why isn't that the issue?
Maybe I'm naive in thinking that we can have economic growth and not have natural resource degradation and the exploitation of indigenous peoples. And maybe the problem is that there isn't enough Aboriginals in power, and you'd think that there would be more of them because education is free for them, right?
Okay, education is not free. We pay plenty of taxes and we pay for our gas. Why does this issue come up every single time we talk about Indigenous anything?
I honestly thought it was free.
Well, you're wrong.
Means I think that the important thing here are human beings. So I think that oil sands isn't right because it's hurting people in the region. When I first came to Canada, I thought there weren't conflicts at all here. I mean, it's a multicultural country, right? But now that I know the Alberta thing,
Yeah, a lot of international students think that.
I'm not an international student anymore. I'm Canadian now.
I forget who said it in a movie, but he was right on. It's not until this problem starts affecting white people that anything's gonna be done about it. Right now, it's not affecting any white people, so nothing's being done. Once it finally does start hurting us, that's when we'll start changing things.
What's the matter with being white anyways?
Let me write him a list.
What's so great about being white?
Racism in Canada?
Zach. Oh, Zach, multiculturalism is a fallacy. It's window dressing covering up a continued legacy of prejudice and racism in Canada. And it's not the kind that's open, it's in the little things. It's, we're Canadian and we're nice and people talk about truth and reconciliation, but there's no reconciliation without truth. And the truth is, post-racial America does not exist.
Oh, come on. Do we have to talk about this?
So, going back to the oil sands,
No, hang on a minute. Seriously, color doesn't matter in Canada. Got Nahid Nenshi, Calgary's mayor, Harjit Sajjan, the defense minister, both from the South Asian community. If that's not enough for you, we've got a Chinese professor right here.
Yeah, that's my point exactly. She's not just a professor, she's a Chinese professor.
okay, folks, we're really getting off topics here. Let's, moving back to the oil sands.
But how can we talk about the oil sands without talking about race relations? They're inextricably linked.
I agree.
It seems to me like there are a lot of traditional Indigenous teachings that could benefit the population who happen to be destroying the entire planet. Do they teach you about land pedagogy, Prof?
Omar, please, what were you saying about identities earlier?
Whose identity? Do you mean the elites I was talking about? I mean, they're the normal people that need the job, the opportunity to make money.
This is ridiculous.
What I'm talking about?
All of this.
Should I continue?
Maybe we should talk about this.
It was kind of ridiculous to me when the prof told us to go to a deeper level of analysis, because from what I've heard from elders in my community, knowledge is about the mind and the spirit and the body together. So for me, learning involves my feelings and not just the facts. So it was really hard for me to try and get past that.
I felt really taken aback when Yasmin asked me what I thought about a very specific question that doesn't even affect myself. I thought she knew how to be a good ally, and that was not being a good ally.
After I targeted Winona in class today, I felt absolutely devastated. We've had many sorts of conversations like that before, and they were really interesting and deep, and we really connected over them. And so I guess I just didn't think about the fact that we were in a totally different context in a classroom. And so it was very instinctive for me to turn and ask her opinion. But then I realized that I'd made a terrible mistake in doing so. And I feel so embarrassed, and I don't know how she thinks about me right now.
I thought that Russ's comment about Indigenous cultures being dying cultures to be just so insensitive that I didn't even know what to say, because I can't believe that people really think this. It's hard because people want Indigenous people to just forget, and how am I supposed to forget when I experience that in my everyday life?
That moment when I realized that I was wrong about education being free for Indigenous people, I felt like I had failed in that moment. Like I was meaning to be a defense. I was meaning to align myself. And then I just blundered. It was terrible. I was so embarrassed.
When the discussion came up about what's so good about being white, what's so bad about being white, I just don't understand it. I've never had white privilege. Yes, my skin color is white, but I've never experienced any benefits from it. I came from a family that struggled all our lives. We had to make ends meet, and I had to put myself through university, and the color of my skin isn't going to impact the fact that I'm going to still have $40,000 of debt when I get out of here.
In my home country, people don't talk about race. Race is really a hard issue, and it can be solved within such a short amount of time.
So today in class, when the issue of race came up, I really didn't understand it. I still don't understand why color matters in Canada, or why people think that it matters. I treat everyone the same.
So I do realize that conversations around those issues need to happen. However, I feel terrified because I don't know where to start. And I'm worried that if I start the conversation, it might get out of control, or it might not get on the way that I want it, the result I want to get, and that might affect how the students would evaluate me, and also the safety of the students, and a lot of more issues might follow with opening up this conversation.